Good morning. We're so glad that you're here again. We are wrapping up this amazing book. I feel like these last two chapters are like the epitome of this whole book. They're not long, but man, John Maxwell has a way with using few words and saying so much. So we are on chapter 11, Take the Longer Road That Leads to Higher Leadership. I feel like every title of every chapter was just like spot on of what we need, right? Like it's so easy to apply these chapters to the growth that we need in our business. And I just said in one of our chats that I feel like there has been toe stepping, like major toe stepping on my toes this whole book, but I welcomed it. Like it's so good to have that pointed out. It's a form of clarity to us, excuse me, to want to know where you want to grow, where you have to grow, right? So we're going there. Take the longer road that leads to higher leadership. And he talks in the beginning about how in 1995, he was actually at a place of where he had comfortably worked himself to a nice position. And he actually didn't really want to move on, right? He did want to move on, sorry, but all other things pointed to the fact that he had worked himself to a good position. What he is saying is, I had only one problem. I wanted to go to the next level as a leader. I wanted to reach and help new audiences of leaders, both nationally and internationally, but I realized I couldn't do it if I stayed where I was. The next stage of growth would require me to give up my position, seek new and risky opportunities, and even move to another part of the country. I needed to face and answer a critical question. Am I willing to give up all that I have for a new level of growth? And sometimes I feel like we come to a position like this in our business in Plexus because we have developed whys along the way. And sometimes those whys are income related. And then you reach that level and then you're like, okay, I'm there and it's comfortable and you've removed the previous pain. Then you really don't want to lean forward to being able to level up again, right? And so what he's saying is we have to. If we want to make a greater impact and impact more people, we have to let go of where we are and then again, take more risk and move on. So by avoiding risk, we really risk what is most important in life, reaching towards growth, our potential, and a true contribution to a common goal. It's such a good analogy of we never ever should stop learning. Like learning is such a lifelong journey. And I feel like so many people get to a place where they're comfortable in their life. And then they're like, there, now the hard part is over. Now I can just stay here. But you can't, because regardless, if you're not growing, you're dying. And so it's never a place of where you're staying, right? So he talks about, I believe we humans are always tempted to take the quick and easy route. Man, why is that always a thing, right? We're always avoiding the pain. We're avoiding the hard thing. We're like, let's just get there the easy way. It's never going to be like that. We want instant gratification. Yes. I mean, like, honestly, Diamond Docs used to be 10 to 12 minutes. They're now down to 3 to 5. Like, it's just that instant, captivating. People want to scroll. They don't stop to read anymore. We have to slow ourselves down to actually take in the good. And so everything worthwhile is uphill. He's known to say that, right? And all roads to the places we most desire to go are long and require us to make trade-offs to choose one thing over another. And so he talks about his father and his impact that his father had on him. And obviously his dad was a really wise guy, because in today's day and age, we could all benefit a little bit more of wisdom like that. Pay now, play later. Too often people play before they pay, and it winds them up in financial turmoil and, debt over their heads because they want that instant gratification, because they don't want to work the hard way for it. I'll just take a loan for it. I'll just pay my mortgage for 50 years. And it's not a good life. It's always a life under bondage, right? So
Mhm.
I was someone who loved to play and never wanted to pay. I don't see John Maxwell like that. It's so interesting that he still remembers himself like that, right? What was he trying to teach? What he was trying to teach me was to choose to do the difficult things first so that I could enjoy the greater fruits of my labor later. It reminds me of the book that we once read of Eat the Frog First. Like just
Mhm.
do the dang thing. Like just do the thing and then get on to the good part, right? And so anything we want will exact a price from us. And the question is, when will we pay? So there's that common saying of there's no such thing as a free lunch. Somebody pays for it. We're going to pay for it somewhere, right?
Mhm.
And so by avoiding risk, we really risk what is most important in life, reaching towards growth, our potential, and a true contribution to a common goal. It's Max Dupree. And it obviously made an impression on him as well, because it made him choose of doing the hard thing first, right? In my career, over and over, I have traded security for opportunity. I have given up what many would consider an ideal position so that I could grow as a leader or make a bigger impact. I have always tried to make the choices that ultimately lead to the higher level of leadership. And the next part is really a huge part of learning that we never stop learning. I've found that the higher we go in leadership, the harder it is to make the trade-offs. Why? We become comfortable. We've acquired some of these things that we didn't have before we started working hard. We have to recognize and understand that the next season of hard work is coming. It'll look different than the previous one, but in all honesty, there's always a next season.
Mhm.
It's never going to stop. And I think coming to a realization of that and embracing that is really good for your growth, because then you stop resisting the fact that it's going to be hard again. Like it'll always be hard again, even though you accomplish good things along the way, right?
Mhm.
So people often tell dramatic stories about the sacrifices they had to make in the beginning of their careers. Like we hear that in Plexus, we hear that all the time, right? But the truth is that most of us had very little to lose in the beginning because we came in with a loss. Like that was me. We were so far behind. Let's just do it, right? Like there's no losing. But now it's like, it would be a different level of sacrifice now,
Mhm.
and to lean into that next season of growth again. The only thing of value that we have in the beginning is time, but the higher we climb and the more we attain, the less we want to risk what we've gained. We see this also in teams that build to a good culture. They kind of become a familiar group. They've reached a level of where they understand each other. They're doing well. Their retention is good, but it's harder for them to bring in new people because they've already acquired a level of familiarity. And so this is also a place where we have to recognize that bringing in new people and having new people running among us should always be a new scary. Should always be a new, ooh, what's she gonna do, right? Like that extra level of growth again. And so, and what's maybe even worse, they harm others with the decision to keep what they have. We don't want to stay stagnant. We don't want to stay there. That next quote is really, really strong in understanding of why. Something in human nature tempts us to stay where we're comfortable, just kind of naturally, right? We try to find a plateau, a resting place where we have comfortable stress and adequate finances, where we have comfortable associations with people without the intimidation of meeting new people and entering strange situations. Of course, all of us need to plateau for a time. We climb and then plateau for assimilation. But once we've assimilated what we've learned, we climb again. It's unfortunate when we've done our last climb, when we've made our last climb, we are old, whether 40 or 80.
Mm.
I am 74, and I don't know about you, but I never want to become that kind of old. That
Mm.
really struck me. I was like, oh, deep breath, Marge, let's climb again.
Mhm. Oh, so good. You covered that perfectly, Marge. So in the next section, make better choices. He has 9 choices. If you choose this over that, I can just see all of these just reminded me so much of the leadership on our team. Made me feel really, really proud because I just saw so much of our team in this next section. How we have chosen to view things long-term, and what is choosing the better over the good, choosing the better in the long run over the good that's right now. And I really appreciate that about our team and the leadership on our team. The right path is often longer, but it is always better. Love that. I'm going to read that top part. As I have traveled the road of leadership, I have always sought to make the better choice when I reached a fork in the road. Often it was the longer, slower path, but I felt certain it would allow me to reach a higher potential. And I believe if you make similar choices throughout your career, it will make you a better leader and put you in a better position to help others other people as you lead. So choice number 1, choose accomplishment over affirmation. It is really easy in Plexus to work for praises because they're plentiful. They're everywhere. And we never want to take that for granted. Like, we always want to be praising our team and affirming them. That's true. But if you find yourself in a place in your business where you are doing things because somebody's going to compliment you, or you're in a chat where you're just putting things in there so that somebody will say thank you and gratitude and all of these things, but you're not actually doing the work, and those things are going to fade. They are absolutely going to fade right here. But praises and accolades are like smoke that quickly fade away. Awards turn into rust, and financial rewards are spent quickly. At some point, you have to make a choice. Would I rather work for accomplishments that are of worthy task, or spend my energy trying to make myself look good? So talking to all the people pleasers or recovering people pleasers, because that does feel good to be recognized in those ways. But is the evidence is your business growing? That is your evidence if you are spending more time on what he calls worthy tasks rather than things that just make you look good. This also makes me think of the quick prizes we have in Plexus. Somebody can easily win all the little quick prizes and they look amazing and have this great recognition, but what about the actual lasting effects of your business, like the things that are lasting? What about your points? What about leadership development on your team? Are you getting silvers and all those things? Of course, there's other things involved in this. It isn't just about praises, but really reflect on it. Are you working for someone to be able to see that you're doing well, or are you actually doing well? I thought that was really good. So choosing accomplishment over affirmation. The decision gave me self-respect, causing others to respect me, and made me more valuable as a leader because I had more to give.
You were the perfect one for that section, Eva, when we all agree. She's always behind the scenes, making all kinds of stuff happen, and she's not expecting any praise for any of it. Okay, the next one is choosing significance over security. It's just a small section, but so powerful, because in the end, when you think about great leaders in history, or great leaders you may know, they gave their lives to make a difference. It wasn't about just, all the things that they did. It's about the difference they made in the end. Does that make sense? So staying where you are, and I love that this whole chapter is just about going a little bit higher, just like, don't ever settle for less, right? Staying where you are may give you security, but it will never satisfy you. Because if what you are doing doesn't make a difference in the world and add value to people, you'll feel that lack. So what you do, or when you do work that really matters to you, it elevates you. And I would hope that all of you as leaders are aspiring to be better leaders. That's what matters to you, is making that difference in lives. Like, without that, what's the point of your busyness and your accomplishments? Like Eva just said, all those prizes if you're not making a difference. So always remember that. And it's not going to be comfortable. It feels safe and secure to stay where you are. But remember, there's no significance that comes with that.
That's so good. And long term, the significance is always going to trump, always going to make a difference. Choose future potential over financial gain. This is a big one because people can really end up chasing money and lose the whole purpose or the whole picture of the purpose. And he talks about how one of life's ironies for me is that I was never motivated by money. And yet they always ended up doing well financially. Why? I believe it was because I was always willing to put future potential ahead of financial gain. So if financial gain is your only vision, you're going to not be able to see the future potential, right? The temptation is almost always to go for the bucks, but this goes back to his dad's advice again. If you are willing to sacrifice financially on the front end for the possibility of greater potential, you're almost always given a greater chances for higher rewards, including financial ones. And we see this in scarcity mindsets for building our businesses all the time, right? Like if you have a leader that is clinging on to every dollar that they're making and working out of desperation, it's hard to look forward for more opportunities because they're going to be living so close-fisted that there isn't room to be giving. But when you're living open-handed and the money flows through, you're able to give and more comes. So I really like that visual.
Mm-hmm. So number 4 is choosing personal growth over immediate gratification. And we already talked about this. I like his example that he gave from an earlier chapter. How there were many times, he says, there was many times that Margaret and I had to put off. Is this the first time you guys heard John Maxwell's wife's name? For me, I feel like it was the first time. Did I not? Anyway, probably because I was
Not a
writing.
lot anyhow. He doesn't talk a lot about her.
It's
I
John
remember
and
him saying her
Margie.
name on stage at leadership.
Okay, well, I somehow didn't catch that her name was Margaret. Anyway, I had put off or sacrifice pleasures, conveniences, or luxuries in order to pursue personal growth opportunities. And I just thought of everybody that came on this Zoom. Like, you guys could be doing something else. Totally do something else today. And here, don't distract me, Janelle. You guys could be doing something else, but you chose to choose personal growth this morning. We're on month end and we're working on these last 2 chapters and you guys showed up. So I'm really proud of you. But how many times do we need to have really good boundaries in this business, or else we will get sidetracked all of the time? Choosing personal growth instead of immediate gratification in this business is like you staying home because you have dedicated yourself to going on this Zoom and your family is going off doing something else. Like, that is like, nope, I said I was going to do this. That is what I'm going to be doing because this is going to grow me. It's going to grow my team. Oh, that's another perspective here. If you're not doing these personal growth things or the showing up things or the Zoom things for yourself, and you're only doing it to show your team, you're also not going to really be growing because you're just doing it to show off that you're there. Show up to all of these things for yourself. I would be doing this book study if none of you guys were showing up, because that's what I said I was going to do. So show up for yourself. That was a little side trail there, but learning to have those boundaries and saying no to things now so that you can grow and have those bigger things later. That is just key in all areas. That goes from silver to diamond to all the ranks. That is just key.
I found this next section really interesting because it's something I guess I never really stopped and thought about and reflected on. I think it's partly because of my personality. It's choosing focus over exploration. Focus isn't a problem for me generally, but I can see very much how, my husband is kind of the opposite. And then I'm aware of that and see people on my team who can be the same way. So it's a real thing to be distracted or want to try other things. And in Plexus, I can even be tempted by that sometimes when you're feeling like you're maybe in a stuck place And so you want to try all these things that you're hearing that are working for all the amazing people who are growing their teams. And so you want to try all the things and you lose focus. It can happen so easily. So I just thought it was interesting the way he said, so true, when you're young, you should try out new things, see where your strengths and interests lie, try things. But the older you get, the more focused you should be. You can go far only if you specialize in something. He focuses on leadership and communication. That's what he does best. And if you study the lives of great men and women, you find they were very single-minded. So this is really something to think about with our businesses, because I think it's part of our leadership is learning to stay focused, and it helps our team stay focused and not get distracted with all the carrots, all the amazing things other people are doing. I've tried things for my team that just didn't work, fell completely flat. And so I sometimes okay to try different things to discover what works. But in the end, I usually go back to what worked for us in the beginning. Just staying single-minded and focused is just incredibly powerful as a leader. And I'm learning that sometimes the hard way. But I want to encourage some of you who find it easier to like, oh, let's try this, let's try that. It's okay to not do all that. And the more you advance in your business and advance in leadership, the more single-minded you should be. That was really cool.
Honing in on your strengths. That's so good. Number 6, choose quality of life over quantity of life. I had to laugh a little bit of how he's explaining himself, because I think I have a much greater expectation from him, or maybe just evaluation from him, because I think like John Maxwell has arrived and he's talking about the things that are holding him back, right? But he says, I have to confess that I have a more mentality. If one is good, 4 is better. If somebody says he can hit a goal of 20, I can encourage him to reach for 25. It's always seeing the bigger vision. It's always knowing that there is more, right? When I teach a 1-hour leadership lesson, I want to put so much content in it that people have a hard time taking notes. Those, are just like the fire hose ones, right? You're just frantically writing, trying to get your brain to comprehend all of these things. I want to add as much value as possible to them. But there's a but to this side, right? Because of this natural inclination, I've often had very little margin in my life. For years, my calendar was booked solid and I took very little time to relax. I remember once asking my brother and his wife to come visit me, and his brother said, no, you're too busy. If we come, we won't even see you.
Oh,
That's not good either. Yeah, relatable a little bit. There's good things to that. And there's also the side of where we have to learn to balance that, right? I love the visual of him pouring tea. I once read that the president of a large publishing company sought out a wise man to get his advice. After describing the chaos that was his life, he silently waited to hear something of value from the sage. The older man at first said nothing. He simply took the teapot and began pouring tea into a cup. And he kept pouring until the tea overflowed and began to cover the table. What are you doing? The businessman exclaimed. Your life, said the wise man, is like a teacup flowing over, and there is no room for anything new. You need to pour out and not take more in. So changing your mindset from quantity to quality. And it took for him to have a heart attack and to see his grandchildren growing up for it to be reevaluated. We can get so honed in and so focused on just do that you have to have a wake-up call in between, right? And I found it so interesting that the teacup analogy works for being overflowing just as well as it works for it being too empty. Both analogies apply here, right? So carve out time for the really important things in your life.
so good. Okay,
Eva,
so
do you remember Henry Cloud touching on that at our
yeah,
mastermind? Because he was using an example of someone who had a troubled marriage, and he was given all kinds of things to do and put, take in all this books and whatever to improve himself. And he said he ended up telling him, hey, I think what you need to do is learn to serve others, pour out, give to others, and that can be part of your healing. And it just reminded me of this. That's what we get to do. So anyway, sorry, just wanted to
That was good. Good memory. Okay, number 7 is easy peasy. Choose excellence over acceptable. And he's like, this is obvious, like people aren't going to pay well for average. But it also made me think of anything is learnable. You can get excellent at anything. Anything is learnable. But remember that the God-given gifts that you have I feel, are already excellent. Whether you're admitting it or not, most of the time, the giftings that we've been given, we're like avoided using them because, I don't know, either we're embarrassed or whatever, but those are already excellent. So embrace the things you're already excellent at, though your natural gifts, and everything else is learnable. If something is worth doing, give it your very best, or don't do it at all. Does it take longer to perform with excellence? Of course. Will it cost more? Yes, but you will never regret giving your best. This goes back to not doing too many things, but being brilliant at the basics, being brilliant at the things that are most important that you can focus on.
I love that. I love the word excellence. It's just
Mhm.
always, I think it's always just a good one to apply to everything that you're doing in your life. Always try to be excellent. Okay, choose multiplication over addition. This one gets us really excited in Plexus, right? I mean, why add 100 points on your own when you can add 100 points by helping others, developing others? It's just such a better way, multiplication. That's what I think of when I think of this title anyway. So he says, when people make the shift from doer to leader, they greatly increase the impact that their lives can make. It's a significant jump because the number 1 is too small a number to achieve greatness. You cannot achieve it on your own. It's just my favorite part about Plexus and network marketing. And I think the next chapter we get into that a little bit more, but it's just, if you're not aware of this as a leader, that you alone cannot do it, you're never going to get there without developing others. I mean, I think it's probably redundant. You guys all know it, but it's just the multiplication versus the addition is just really, really cool. Leaders who gather followers add to what they can accomplish. Leaders who develop leaders multiply their ability. So for every leader that you develop or attract, you're gaining not only that individual's horsepower, but the horsepower of all the people that they bring on. I just remember how this impacted me when because we business owners of a traditional business ourselves. It was all up to us entirely, my husband and I. And so just to see how it works to bring people on and use their horsepower plus the people they bring on, multiplication, it's the best. I get excited.
I remember exactly when this light bulb went on for me in my business. It was right between senior gold, or was it right? It was right around senior gold. It was either right before I ranked senior gold or right after. I think it was right before. I had 11 people join me that month. And I just remember clearly 11 people joined me that I had not signed up. I hadn't signed up any of them. I had signed up my own, but I was like, 11 people joined my team. I don't know who they are. I've never talked to them. And it just was this hugest light bulb. This is how you go places in this business. Like I the whole time I'm like, I'm gonna have to do the whole thing by myself. I'm willing to do it. I'm going for it. I'll get emerald points all by myself. I'll do it. Like there was no question. But when I saw that happening, I was like, this is okay. Now we're going to diamond. Now we're going all the way. I just remember getting that picture so clear in my head when you see duplication happening on your team. It's very, very exciting. Don't take it for granted. Every person that gets added to your team that you do not know yet is huge potential and opportunity. Sorry,
I love that so much. Yesterday, one of the girls that is ranking up said, I don't even know who these people are that are being added to my team. And I was like, best feeling ever when you learn that.
Yeah.
Is that it's not just you, it's many horses pulling together. Makes it so exciting. And running your own business is one thing. You can kind of control your own circumstances a little bit. But when you see all these families coming in and they're all pulling with you and the impact is theirs, it's so amazing. So amazing. Okay, choose a second half over another first half. I loved this illustration because I feel like I'm looking at the second half of our lives, and just the way that he shares it. Bob Bulford says that most people who are successful in the first half of their lives try to do the second half of their lives in the same way. What he's really saying is that they have reached a plateau and then they repeat their first half again. Why? Because it's much easier to stick with what's familiar. Of course it is, right? But don't fall into that trap. When you get the chance, choose your second half. Don't just let a rerun of your first half happen. Once you have become successful, transition to doing something of significance. Invest in people. Do things that will live on after you are gone. If you are in the first half, keep paying the price so that you have something to offer in your second half. It's such a good visual of what you're going to be growing in that will be paying forward. I feel like I'm looking at my second half. I often feel like Plexus came into my life for my second half, because literally these last 9 years have been so much better than the previous 20 years before that, right? And so making that change already made a huge difference. It already made a huge difference in what our legacy is going to be, made a huge difference in what our family is going to be like even 10 years from now. Why not keep that going? Why not go even deeper and level up again instead of just going back to what's familiar? Will it be easy? No, but it will definitely produce results that are not going to be there if we stay in the familiar zone. I was going to close that. Sorry.
Okay.
I was waiting for Eva.
Okay. It's all good.
Are you willing to give up to go up? That's a really, really good question, right? You have to let go of one thing in order to grasp a new one. And people naturally resist that. We want to stay in our comfort zone, keep what's familiar. Man, we hear that a lot, right? Like pulling people out of a comfort zone is such a continuous process. And so he talks about Abraham Lincoln, and I really, really appreciated that last page, because I feel like we in our countries right now are yearning for this kind of leadership. It's so visual of what can come of it. Lincoln's decision was firm. It is not necessary for me to be reelected, he said, but it is necessary for the soldiers at the front to be reinforced by 500,000 men, and I shall call for them. If I go down under the act, I will go down with my colors flying. He's considered one of the greatest presidents simply because he was willing to make hard choices for the sake of the people that he led and served. That is the kind of attitude all leaders need to possess. Every new level of growth we hope to experience as leaders calls for a new level of change. You cannot have one without the other. If you want to be a better leader, get ready to make some trades. And sometimes we come to this point. I remember coming to this point when I was wanting to rank up, and it didn't feel like anybody else on my team wanted to. It was basically my goal. I had to level up. I had to grow. I had to become that sacrificial leader in order so that other people could cling to that vision as well. He was willing to do it for the men on the front line. Are we willing to do it for our teams?
Aren't you glad you have me for your amen corner in my hummings? I'm like, Okay. Chapter 12. Last chapter, credit others for your success. Without a lot of people working together, there would be no success. That is the epitome of Plexus. That is just how it works. That's just how it will always work. So I love his story about him. I thought it was so cool that he got to be a part of the consultation of this Moses movie. Have you guys ever watched this movie? It's good. And he got to be like a consultation or consult on that. And then he got to go to the first viewing of it. And it's such a cool story because he said he's known, if anybody goes with him to an event, he's known for leaving early. I thought that was interesting because I thought he walked slowly through the crowd, but he obviously must walk slowly through the crowd on the way there. I just saw that he said that. But he started to stand up when the credits started rolling of this movie. And his wife pulled him to sit back down because that's kind of when the show started for these people. They recognize and clap for every single person on the credits. Like, I have never, ever stayed for the credits of anything or looked at that. But that just gave me such a good visual of how it is for our teams. And at the end here, he says, that night I left with the impression that everyone was valued because everyone was valuable. And it takes a lot of people to create a success. And it's a reminder that as leaders, we need to credit others for our success. So, so true. I would love to see, you know, all the people's names on my team of all the things they had done, like in a credits thing. And I would stay for the whole thing and clap for the whole thing because I would know these people and I know what they've done and how hard they worked. Like, that's my favorite thing as leaders. If that's just one of our favorite things, right, is when our people are succeeding and leveling up. So no solo leaders without a lot. Oh, I just read that quote already. So he has, oh, this always reminds me, do you guys ever think about this when you're, maybe I overthink things too much about these kinds of things, where there's no solo leaders in different areas in our life? Like in politics, I often think about this. I often think about, like, so there's a president or prime minister or whatever, but there's like all these people behind him doing the little things. Like, I sometimes wonder, what does the boy who like brings the coffee hear and think? What does the people who do the scheduling, like, no, like, do they ever get credit? Like, the scheduling of politicians must be insane. I often think about these things. And then in airports, I think about this, how many people have to be in place for that thing to work? Like, don't think about it too much. And then I thought about our teams. That's how we should visualize our teams. Like, how many people are doing something right now on your team that you don't even realize or recognize, and they're doing the thing in silence. They're not doing it for praise. They're doing it because they want to, and they love you and they follow you. It's just good to recognize it and remember it, that you are not a solo leader on your team and you are not the person. There's so many people involved. So no solo leaders. And then he has a write up here from a different book called The Laws of Lifetime Growth. And I'm going to go ahead and read that. Only a small percentage of people are continually successful over a long run. These outstanding few recognize that every success comes from the assistance of many other people. They're continually grateful for their support. And many people whose success stops at some point are in that position because they have cut themselves off from everyone who has helped them. That is very sad. They view themselves as the sole source of their achievements, and as they become more self-centered and isolated, they lose their creativity and ability to succeed. Isn't that I think I have seen this. I have witnessed this. People becoming more self-centered and isolated, and then they lose their creativity because they no longer have all those other ideas flowing around them. Continually acknowledge others' contributions, and you will automatically create room in your mind and in the world for much greater success, and you will be motivated to achieve even more for those who have helped you. Focus on appreciating and thanking others, and the conditions will always grow to support your increasing success. So good. If you want to be a successful leader, you will need to support the support of many people. And if you are wise, you will appreciate and acknowledge them, crediting them for your success. Such a good reminder to me and anyone else who needed that.
I just want to say that Eva is really, really good at this. And honestly, I feel like when we demonstrate this, it also trickles downhill. It's so impactful.
Yeah, that about made me teary-eyed.
And it
I
makes
wanna-
me read that book, The Laws of Lifetime Growth. I'm going to look that up.
Yeah. I also want to go back and watch that movie and see if John Maxwell's name is in any of the credits. I don't know. Maybe they aren't. Okay. Help from people ahead of me. Okay. I have like tons of scribbles and highlights in this section. I just really love this part too. Try to go through it quickly. Your team will never get ahead until your people are behind you. And that won't happen if you take all the credit. Again, so much of what Eva just covered. how tempting is that though, when Plexus gives us the credit, right? So
Yeah.
we earn a contest, we earn something that our teams, is because of our teams, and we get this credit or rank, whatever. And that's okay, and that's good, because that's proper. That's how Plexus has it set up. But let's not forget, we simply can't take all the credit.
Mhm.
So in the beginning of his leadership journey, he continually asked himself, what can I accomplish? What can I accomplish? Right? My focus was too much on myself, what I could do. But he quickly had to learn, what can I accomplish with others? His success would only be his if others helped him. So he's realizing that he has to look back and recognize all the people who have helped him over the years. And they fall into two categories: mentors and supporters. So let's cover those really quickly. Some mentors who never knew you, but helped you. When
Mhm.
I think of those, I think of, a lot of the books I read, people that I heard of or saw being successful through the years, and just took inspiration from that, who made a difference to me. Now, for me, it's never been like celebrities. If you read too much into them, that kind of drags you down more than lifts you up. But like world changers, like biographies of people who really did something that impacted a lot of lives. Those were my favorites. Those who I took so much inspiration from. Mentors who knew me, but never knew that they helped me. Some of those were, actual live people in my life. And I loved learning and watching from people who practice what they preach.
Mhm.
I remember sometimes reading or hearing from somebody, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. You're thinking about applying that. And you're like, you find out they never actually did it. They just teach it.
Oh,
And that just
that's
bugs
like a
me.
pet peeve of mine.
Yes.
Like
And so
coaches, people who
as a
quit
mom,
things. Sorry.
go ahead.
No,
No,
I'm gonna mute myself.
no, I want to hear that.
Just people that quit things and become coaches of that thing. I can't deal with that. Bye.
Yeah. Oh, not a whole rant we could go off on here, right? Okay, so as a mom, I always wanted to learn from older women who've been there, done that, and had successful children to show for it, right? Or successful adults. Like that's the type of people I looked for. And then in my Plexus business, I did the same thing. I wanted to look at people who were not just doing all the videos and talking to, being like out there in front, but what did they actually do? I wanted to see what they actually accomplished, what their people look like. And eventually I learned I wanted to know their jewels. If they were diamonds, I wanted to kind of discover what they have done and who their people are. That was always interesting to me. So those are the types of people that I look to learn from. And then some mentors who knew me and knew they helped me. This I could get a little emotional and teary-eyed again, just thinking about these people in my life, because it's been intentional for some of them to actually reach out and bless me and guide me and help me when they wouldn't have had to. People that just support you and lift you up and make you a better person. Eva, Marge, you're some of those. I just, I just look at my journey. I don't know how I would have done it without my supporters, my husband being one of my biggest. He lists different kinds of people who have taken and continue to take the role with him that he recognizes as falling into these categories. I'll list them because you may find it helpful for identifying the kinds of people who are also helping you. And maybe the purpose for this is just because we can reach out and thank them. We can acknowledge them and not take too much credit for ourselves. Time relievers, supporters who saved him time. And you talked about some of these already, Eva. Gift complimenters, people who do things that you're not gifted in. Team players, creative thinkers, I welcome those. Solve problems and give me options. I'm just like, solve all my problems, tell me what to do, I'll do it. But I don't want to always do the creative thinking. Door closers. Ooh, we can even think of people in that category. People developers, servant leaders, mind stretchers, relational networkers. It would be kind of fun to go put all my people in these categories. Literally. Spiritual mentors and unconditional lovers. So I'm grateful for these people. I respect, value, and appreciate them. I could never be successful without them. Behind an able man are always other able men and women. And you guys, as rubies and up, something that you can really, really be you're working for your next level, you're thinking about upping your leadership or whatever, this is just something so powerful to keep in mind, keep in front of you all the time, is the people in your life, and acknowledge them and be grateful.
Mhm. There's something vulnerable about realizing that your vision depends on other people and that you can't do it by yourself. I like this, what it says on the top here. I've had a lot of big dreams in my life, but God has never given me one that I could accomplish on my own. And because my dreams are always bigger than I am, I only have two choices. I can give up or I can get help, and I choose to ask for help. And that's a vulnerable thing, to ask for help. I mean, is Sarah on here? Yeah, she's here. She's going Sapphire, and she needs a lot of help to do that. And it's hard sometimes to be like, hey, help me out. And she's doing such a good job of that. I'm excited for her. What did I have on the last page here? It's just the ending, the closing of this. Whatever success we will see will be due to other people's efforts. And that's true for all leaders. The people on the team make everything work, and the leader's job is to help them be successful. When we understand this, we should express gratitude. And the truth is that success is compounded when others join our cause. Followers make leaders possible. Good leaders make it possible for there to be good followers make it possible for there to be good leaders. And I love that in our career or our business, there can be so many leaders. It's not just, you're not just one CEO. So that makes it just all the more fun and so much better, because there aren't a ton of followers because we build a lot of leaders, right? Do you know what I mean? If you never learn the lesson as a leader, your team members will resent you and your team will never reach the highest level of success. But if you give others the credit, you will become a better leader and you will lead a better team. People will always appreciate working for someone who appreciates them. That made me realize I should do like an appreciation dinner for people around in the area where I live. But also it reminded me that appreciation and recognition is free. Sending somebody a voice message is nothing but a little bit of your time and your heart, which you can do at any time. So I'm going to challenge you guys to do that today. Send some recognition or appreciation voice messages, or call them or whatever so they can hear your voice. That is the end of our book. The back has a conclusion. Self-aware, I highlighted this part. Self-aware leaders never pretend to be perfect and to have all the answers, or that they don't lack weaknesses. Those are the leaders I look up to, the ones that admit this, and you can see it, and they're just vulnerable in that way. I admire them a lot more than someone who appears to always have it together. I'm going to read that last part. While self-awareness is a long life journey, with each step you take in knowing yourself, the better able you will be at leveraging your strengths and focusing on developing a leadership style that suits who you are. And when you have the confidence to be yourself and allow your team members to be themselves, together you can become the team you've always meant to be. What a perfect closing.
That is amazing.
I'm excited for you guys and your leadership and your teams. It's a beautiful thing to watch you guys grow. And I'm so happy we did this book study, and I'm sad to close it. We're gonna have to, I challenge you to do this one with your team too. Like, bring all your goals together and do it together. Everybody's gonna learn. And Genevieve always says you have to listen to something 7 times in order to get the fullness of it. So I'll be doing this one again. Any other closing thoughts, Marge and Brenda?
I've just been incredibly honored to be a part of this. And I feel like, just like Eva said, I would have done this regardless if anybody showed up or not, because I know the depth of the cavity that I'm trying to fill, that I'm trying to grow in, and to always lean forward. And like Brenda said, always looking for people that inspire you, always looking for people that pull you ahead. There's always someone better than you, and that motivates me to always lean in and look for more people that encourage others, look for more people that are lifter uppers, and that will make not just your life better or Plexus better, but the world. Your impact, whether, it may not be big right now, but it could impact so many people in the future. So yeah, 7 times over. Let's do that one again.
Yeah, I feel so honored too to be a part of this. When I first looked at the title and I'm thinking self-aware. I don't know if you guys are like me, but it's at first a little bit scary. Like, do I really want to go there? What does this mean? But after reading through it, I'm like, it's just about my strengths. It's about who you really are as a leader. And just did you notice the little subtitle here is play to your strengths and unleash your team. I mean, that's pretty exciting right there. So let's not be scared of being self-aware and looking at ourselves and analyzing, but yet knowing that we have strengths. You're all amazing leaders, and let's unleash our teams. I love that word.
Yes. Thank you, Marge and Brenda, for sharing all your wisdom and your vulnerability in this, because it was hard for us too, I know. So it's so good. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. See you in the next book study.